What's up, guys? Enkiri here, and today we're going to review a recent snatch grip high pull workout of mine. So this particular workout came, I believe it was 2 weeks after I hit the 225-pound hang power snatch, high hang power snatch PR, that lift that I was really proud of. I made a whole video about it, this lift right here. So in doing that lift, I had accomplished a long-standing goal of mine, which was to heave 225 pounds from my waist to over my damn head and catch it in the power position. So after that, I decided that it was time to take a break from power snatching just for a little while and see what I could accomplish on high pulls now instead with all my newfound pulling power. And so I was using the same sort of wave loading scheme here with the high pulls that I had been using on the power snatching as well. And all I'm doing is singles right now, just singles, never more than 1 rep at a time at the moment on these particular power building exercises. But within each wave here, the rest periods between the singles are very, very short. I'm not resting more than 60 seconds between any of these lifts. It's really just the time that it takes me to load the bar, start the camera, and then chalk my hands and strap up. And then I'm moving into the next lift right away. And on the first wave here, I go up like that in small increments, usually 10 pounds, until I reach a point where it actually starts to feel a little bit difficult to reach the target pulling height. And then when I get to that point, I come down in weight just a small bit, and then I start the second wave up. So now I've got some nervous system potentiation. I'm cranking on all cylinders. My muscles are firing. I'm powerful and I'm explosive, and I've had a little bit of practice honing in on the motor pattern as well. So things are starting to feel smoother and sharper overall and just in general. So by coming down just a little bit, you kind of prime yourself to wave back up after that and get a little bit higher, a little bit heavier on the second go around. And so that's exactly what I do here. I take it a little bit higher on the second wave, and then when I reach another peak on wave 2, I come down just a tiny bit again one last time. And then after that, I continue on to a third and final wave. And at that point, on the third wave, I'm just trying to take things to the limit. I have no intention of coming back down again at that point and doing a fourth wave. And once I'm about halfway or so through the third wave, I've already hit a sufficient number of heavy lifts in the session by then at that point. And so the training effect is already there. It's basically done. I've accomplished what I've set out to accomplish. So at that point, everything that I put on top of it is really all just gravy. And so if it feels good, then I'll keep going. And if it doesn't feel good, then I'll just stop the exercise right there, and no harm, no foul. And you can see once I got to 265 pounds here, I put the little chalk line on my shirt there just for reference. Now that line is drawn right at the nipple line on my body, and that's just so that I have some frame of reference here, right? When I go back and review the video footage, just so I can see how much bar action that I'm getting, how much bar action I'm creating, and where I'm pulling the bar to specifically on my body, if I'm clearing that target line that I want to clear. Now, obviously, I'm also dipping under the bar here just a little bit as well, especially as the weight starts to get heavy, but my primary focus is really just on pulling the bar up, pulling it as high as I can pull it, and keeping my elbows over top of the bar, which is also a very important part of doing these high pulls correctly. And as these lifts start to get heavy, you can really kind of feel internally, right? You can tell on your own if it was a good lift, if it was strong and explosive, and if you achieved a sharp pull and a powerful extension of the hips and the knees. Or on the flip side, you can also feel if it's just kind of too much weight for you on the bar to really handle properly at that point. And if you're just kind of moving into the bar in a cumbersome and unexplosive fashion and not really achieving a sharp and crisp pull. And for the most part, in this session, all of these lifts resemble the former rather than the latter. The most iffy lift of all is probably the last lift of the day here with 330 pounds, which I had no intention of even trying that weight going into the session here. My goal for a while here had just been to pull a solid lift with 320 pounds, and I accomplished that here pretty damn well. In my opinion, that was by far the best lift of the day in reality. I got some really good and really powerful extension on that lift and into the bar, and I pulled the bar up pretty decently high. I kept my arms in good position as well, and then I got a good pull down onto the bar with the upper back at the end of the lift there as well, just for good measure. So it was really damn solid, and I was pretty freaking happy with it overall. And 330 after that was really just gravy anyway, but it wasn't quite as solid as the 320 lift. Honestly though, I'm still pretty happy with it overall. I never even really thought that I would legitimately be high pulling this kind of weight when I started performing the exercise just a few years ago. So I'm really happy with these numbers, and my power development has come a long way, and I'm building up some really good just dummy brute force strength in my body. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And then all told in this session, if we look at my new high pull 1 rep max, my new PR of 330 pounds, then 80% or higher there is basically 265 pounds. So all told, I ended up with 11 lifts here in the session at 80% of 1 rep max or higher, and 14 lifts with 70% of 1 rep max or higher. So that's actually really good stuff. My goal here when I do these waves like this is only to get 10 to 15 total lifts in at 80% or above of 1 rep max. So I'm right in that range here. And overall, it ends up being a really good mix of some lighter, easier pulls with a bit more pop on them, along with some heavier, more difficult pulls that are more limit strength oriented. So that's really good stuff, and I'm happy with it. And then after the high pulls here, I finished up the day with some hip thrusts and some hyperextensions, some pretty easy hypers. But I've been pairing these exercises lately in an alternating fashion, which is not typically something that would be recommended here with exercises that kind of overlap like this, but I'm actually finding that it's working out really well for me. I'm getting better glute engagement in the hyperextensions as well as during my sprinting right now, just from doing these high quality reps on the hip thrust for these last few months. And I'm only using 205 pounds on the hip thrust anyway, which is pretty tame. But I think that most people actually go way too heavy when they do their hip thrusts and glute bridges anyway, and I honestly think that the majority of the benefits of those exercises are lost when you do that. So bear that in mind. That's pretty much the main reason why I'm going so light like this, or what a lot of people would consider light. My glutes are actually getting a really good training effect. But if you are someone who sees the value in the hip thrust like I do, then make sure that you keep the weights manageable and make sure that you're really in control of the bar and you're really focusing on squeezing the glutes and just working those muscles really hard. It's kind of like training the upper back in isolation as well. It's very similar, in my opinion anyway. The weight, when you're training the upper back, the weight is kind of helpful, obviously, but it's not really the end-all, be-all of training the muscle group hard. And the glutes are the same. So it's really more about movement quality and execution. Those are the most important factors, and the majority of the benefits are lost when those aspects are ignored. So just keep that stuff in mind. Anyway, that is all I got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the monstrous high pulls. And if you're interested in online coaching or training programs, be sure to check out my website, www.enkirielitefitness.com, for more details. And other than that, just keep training hard, and I will catch you guys next time.